A wedding, a celebration, a moment filled with joy, laughter, and expectation. And then suddenly, something runs out, not food, not music, wine. At first glance it feels like a small problem, almost insignificant. So here is the question most people never stop to ask. Why would Jesus choose this as his first miracle? Why not heal the sick first? Why not raise the dead? Why not demonstrate undeniable power? Instead, he steps into a quiet crisis at a wedding and turns water into wine. And if you only see the surface, you will miss everything, because this moment was never just about wine. It was a message, a revelation, a preview of something far greater than the people at that wedding could understand. Let me ask you something. What if this miracle is not about solving a problem, but about revealing a pattern? A pattern that explains salvation itself, because every detail in this story, the setting, the shortage, the response, the transformation, none of it is random. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So stay with me, because what happens at this wedding quietly reveals what Jesus came to do for the entire world. And it begins with something most people overlook. The story begins in a very specific place. A wedding. Now pause there. Why a wedding? Because in Scripture, weddings are never just social events. They represent covenant union, relationship between God and his people. So from the very beginning, something is being revealed. This is not just a celebration, it is a symbol, a picture of something eternal, and then something goes wrong. They run out of wine. Now in that culture, this was not a small inconvenience. It was shame, embarrassment, or a public failure. The joy of the celebration was about to collapse. And here is the deeper question. What does that represent? Because spiritually, this is humanity running out, falling short, unable to sustain what was meant to be whole. Scripture says, all have sinned and fall short. That is the condition, lacking not enough. And here is what makes it even more powerful. No one asks Jesus directly. They do not fully understand who he is yet. But the need is real, and that is where grace begins. Not when you fully understand, but when you are empty. Now, here is the tension. Jesus responds in a way that seems distant, but is actually pointing to something much deeper. When Mary brings the problem to Jesus, he says something unexpected. My hour has not yet come. Now, that sounds confusing, but here is what it means. In the Gospel of John, the hour always points to one moment, the cross. So even here, at a wedding, at the beginning of his ministry, Jesus is already pointing forward to his death, to redemption. That means this miracle is not separate from salvation. It is connected to it. Now here is where it becomes even more powerful. The 6 stone jars. This detail changes everything. These were not random containers. They were used for ceremonial washing, or for purification, religious cleansing. They represent the old system, the law. External effort trying to become clean from the outside. And notice, there are 6 jars. In Scripture, 6 represents incompleteness, or human effort that cannot fully reach perfection. So what are we seeing? A system that cannot fully cleanse. A structure that points to something greater, but cannot fulfill it. And then Jesus steps in, not to improve it, but to transform it. So now the question becomes clear. What happens when Jesus enters a system that cannot complete what it started? Everything changes. Jesus tells the servants to fill the jars with water. Ordinary, nothing special. And then something happens. The water becomes wine, not average wine, the best wine. Now pause. Why wine? Because in Scripture, wine represents joy, celebration, covenant, and even more importantly, sacrifice. At the Last Supper, Jesus says the cup represents his blood, the new covenant. So now everything connects. Water. Internal transformation. Law. Great. Sombre. Reality. This miracle is not about fixing a party. It is about revealing the gospel. Jesus is showing something powerful. He did not come to clean you up externally. He came to transform you completely. And here is something even deeper. Not everyone understood what happened. The servants saw the process. The master tasted the result. But But only the disciples saw the meaning. Why? Because spiritual truth is not just seen, it is revealed. And here is the question. Are you seeing the miracle? Or understanding it? Because there is a difference. And that difference changes everything. So now you see it clearly. This was never about wine. It was about transformation. A wedding that points to covenant. A shortage that reveals human emptiness. A response that points to the cross. A system that cannot complete what it promises. And a miracle that replaces it entirely. Let me ask you one final question. Are you still trying to fix your life from the outside? Or are you allowing God to transform you from within? Because that is the message. Jesus did not come to patch your life. He came to change it completely. From water to wine, from effort to grace, from empty to full. And here is the truth. The same Jesus who transformed that moment is still transforming lives today, not partially, completely. So the next time you hear this story, do not stop at the miracle. Look deeper. Because what happened at that wedding was not just a sign, it was a revelation. And once you see it, you realize something powerful. Jesus does not just meet your need, he changes your nature.